So this is my presentation. Just making sure that this is okay. This is recording. So this is my video on my computer science class. So in this class, we learned C++. Um, these lines of code, they're very important. So you must memorize them. When creating a folder, you must have a IDE, which is an integrated development environment. For me, I will be using a Visual Studio Code. This helps you to run your program. Um, and when creating a folder, the folder can be any name as long as you know what it is. But the files, they have to have .cpp, so that way it knows that it is a C++ file. So for me, I'll just write the name of the file will be new, and then just .cpp, and I'll just go ahead and write the code that you need to memorize. Okay. So in C++, there's libraries and functions. So this right here, within these arrows, the IO stream. This is a library that contains many functions to put into your program. Functions are a group of statements that perform specific tasks. So you have to include libraries to perform those. The main function is what the name of it is the main function of the program. This is where it starts and where the program starts to read. Commenting in your codes, you can leave comments. These are very helpful because it can help remind you or others to what like to explain what a line does. There will be so if you use the two slashes, it will be out in green, and this is just this could be for your own personal benefit. It could be anything, just a reminder of what the code does. So console out or C out, as it's written when programming, it displays numbers or written text out to the console or terminal of your computer. So this is done by writing this code. So one of the most basic is C out and then hello world. So save it. And then what you want to do, you want to come down here and you're gonna write G++ and then the name of your file. And then for me, I'm using a Mac. So to execute this file, it'll be /a.out. And there you go. Right here, down here, it'll say hello world. For Windows, it'll be a.exe. So having this end L right here at the end, so this basically just means end of line. So if you were to have another C out, and let's just say it says the same thing, uh, there's gonna be two separate lines to separate those two phrases. So as you can see, so there's hello world on the first line and on the second line. If you were to not have the end L at the first line, they would just be joined together. See right here. So in the main function, like I said before, it's the main part of your program. What you want to do is you want to make sure that you do have return 0 with the semicolon here at the bottom. This is to show that the program is finished and it is done executing. So onto variables and names. A variable is a storage location where information can be stored and accessed later. These variables have addresses, but we'll get onto that later on. So these variables are given names to help label and for you to remember what information each variable contains. So like here we have int a. So int shows that it is an integer variable whose name is a. The a is an identifier, so to help you remember the name of what exactly that variable is for. So many variables can be defined on the same line. So this can be done by, so we just had int a, so that's one variable that you declared. You can just put a comma and then keep naming variables, and then put a semicolon once you're done. So this is uh, three variables that are declared. This is essentially the same as if you were to just put and see. So that right there is the same as just this. You can also assign a value to an integer. You'd want to do this because it's that way it's something that you actually, a value that you actually know it is given, because every integer could be given is given a really random number. For example, if you were to just output whatever integer a is, you wouldn't really know what that value is until you output it. But it's a very random number. So as you can see here, it's 173,121,573. That's, I would not have guessed that. So what you want to do is let's say you want to equal it to 5. So just put equals 5. So this equal sign is uh, you're assigning this value to this integer. So now once you save and you run it again, as you can see right here, you get 5. So that is now the value of a. There's also Boolean variables. These run into are used with using true and false. So if you have bool and then let's say a, let's say this is true, and you were to output that on your computer, so let's just run that, and you're gonna get a 1. So 1 signifies that's true. If you were to put in false, you would get a 0 right there. So cin with these two arrows, this allows the user to input their own information or their own value to assign to an integer. Um, so let's say you just had integer a and did not have any value yet. So let's just see out and then input value for a, and then this is where you would use cin, and then you just put a semicolon, and then so here you're gonna have an output that reads to input value for a. This is where you would input it. Then you would input that value, and then it will show the value that you had just input. So if we run that, so value for a, let's just go with 37, and you enter it, and then shows 37 again. So 37 is now the value for integer a. There are many kinds of operators. There's assignment operators, and arithmetic, logical, and relational operators. Assignment operators, these are operators that assign a variable a certain value. So kind of like the equal sign. So In the previous example where we had integer a is equal to 5, so 5 is now assigned to integer a. Um, these other 5 that under the equal sign, so with the plus equals, minus equals, multiplication, division, this is modulus, so we'll get into that later. So these basically just are assigning new values. So what that so for example, for plus equals, what that means is if you're to write a plus equals 3, that's saying the same thing as saying a is equal to a plus 3. So like I mentioned comments earlier, this is not this line is just it's not being read. This is just to show that these two lines mean the same thing. So we were to see out a now. So if we run the code, we get 8 because since this line is just saying a plus 3 and a is 5, so 5 plus 3 is 8. The same thing goes for the rest of these, for the subtraction, the multiplication, division. It's the same thing. And this is modulus. So modulus is the result of the remainder after dividing. Here we go on to the arithmetic operators. These first four are just basic algebra, just your regular addition, subtraction, multiplication, division. Then we have modulus, and modulus, like I said, is the result of the remainder between two integers after division. So, for example, we had a is 15. We had another integer b, which is 5. And we just had and then we wanted to see out a divided by b. So when we do division, 15 divided by 3, which is what this is. 15 divided by 5 is 3. Excuse me. But once we do modulus, so 15 divided by 5 is 3, but the remainder is 0. So we were to do the modulus, we get 0. There's also increment and decrement. This is just increasing or decreasing the value of an integer by 1. So if you had integer a is 15, and then you were to just write a plus plus and see out a. So a is 15, and then this plus plus means adding 1. So a plus 1, so that's 15 plus 1, which is 16. So right there, 16. The same thing goes for the minus minus, it would just be 15 minus 1, which is 14. So moving on to logical operators, these consist of Boolean expressions, just whether a condition is true or false. So here we in the second line we have a and b. So in this case both a and b would need to be true for whatever is next to be executed or operated. These two straight lines, this is OR, so only one of these conditions would need to be true. And like I said before, the Boolean expressions return a 1 or 0 corresponding to true or false. So if we had integer, let's change that to 7, and we had integer b.